Hi everyone, and I can finally say welcome back to another Disney Infinity tutorial. This one we're actually going to get you making stuff. So I've decided just to do a quick recap of the level again, just in case you've missed the first clip. This is part of my Disney Infinity series that we've been doing it for the past year, which is a bit of an embarrassing thing to say. And those that have seen the full run through, I did it with the Black Panther, so we're now doing it with the Hulkbuster. Okay, so we're now going to show you what high tech can do against these Thanos' army. And obviously with Thanos' army, when they arrive and crash into the ground, we should be able to kick some serious butt. Now, as you'll notice here is that my gameplay I'm not always good at, and I mentioned this before in other clips that I do get the mickey taken out of me in the office, but yeah, you'll notice here I struggle a bit. I get the hang of the Hulkbuster later, but yeah, it took a while to get going. So here comes the troops, get ready for the big battle. I don't use the Hulkbuster that often, but it's not too bad. But one thing to remember, obviously this is December time that I'm releasing this clip, and it's now a good 4 years since Disney Infinity gave us the heads up that it's all going to be shut down and it was going to close. But you can still get a hold of all the characters. If you're looking to try and get certain things like power discs and stuff, they are still available and they're not silly prices. So check eBay, check other bits and places, but the characters still work and they still work on the pad. So just because the network is down doesn't mean you can't get new characters. They'll still connect up and the score will still be available. One thing I've done is I've tried to search and try and find all the power discs that are to do with the backgrounds, which you can find. And a lot of places on eBay sell them relatively quite cheap. There are some places that sell them for about £20, but depending on the type of background you want, they're not too bad. I think you could put about £3-4 for them. That's UK money anyway, so I'm not sure what they're like in the States. And you'll see here, it took a while, but I now get cracking with this. Right. So what this level is going to basically be about is we're going to build the actual map. Okay, so there's no logic, it's just a building exercise, so it's quite easy to go through. And you'll see here me kicking some butt. I got the gist of it now, so I've got cracking on what I'm doing now. But yeah, so what we're going to do is we're just going to build this particular level, and we're going to look at certain pitfalls that you have to just take into consideration on the type of level you wanted. Because one thing that we're stuck with is Disney Infinity doesn't like you have too many AI characters. If you have hundreds in there, it overloads it, it crashes. Now, obviously we want this to be a battle, so I think at the most I had enemy-wise at one time is 10. But because every time they die they respawn, it looks like an endless army. But we'd all want to have 100 enemies against another 100, but it does tend to gobble it all up, so your landscape has to be the bare minimum to do that. So as soon as you go a bit carried away with the backdrops and other things, it slows the memory, doesn't work. So I think this is the largest I could get without affecting performance, which should work on most other people's consoles, whether it's a Wii, Xbox or PlayStation. So we kicked some butt there. Right, but yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to build the map. I'm just going to show you different variations of what I did with the map, show you other test models that I did. And then I've got 3 more clips that are going to follow this over the next few days. Those, how I get the Thanos' ships to crash into the ground, how I get the armies to march through, and I've got a new technique with the army. I did do a Lord of the Rings level, where I have some troops marching on the castle. I think I use the Brave character. So I'm going to use that, but I'm using a different technique to show you how you can use the same thing, and it was a bit easier actually to use. So I'll show you that part. I didn't know Hulkbuster could do that, which is quite cool. So I'm going to show you that, and then obviously I'm going to show you how you link them all together and do all the structure again. But this is now finally my first tutorial back from my break. Obviously I did my Rise of Disney Infinity clip, but it just shows you you don't have to use Disney Infinity to make games. You can get it to your own videos. You'll notice, by the way, I got defeated pretty quickly using this. I thought it was doing really well, but they destroyed my base really too easy. Right, so what I'm going to do first, right, as we come to the end of this battle, I'm going to show you my first design of the Wakanda City, okay? And it does actually look quite good, but I want you to look at it, and before I tell you, I want you to tell me what is wrong with that. Yeah, I want to tell me what the hell why didn't I stick with the first design? So this is the end result that we've got, which is a very tiny little map with our little logic. So let's show you how we put this together. Let's show you one of my first drafts. Right, so this is the first draft I did, and let's now zoom up. Let's now have a look at the layout of this map. Now I love this map. I love the shape of it as well. It's not square. You'll notice my other one is slightly square. It's more a little rigid. I like the way the trees curve. Yeah, so that's quite cool. I love the way the river comes out. It's not an exact square, so it looks more natural. It does look more like a jungle. Yeah, I know you've got the fine edges, but when you're in the middle of that gameplay, you can't see it. So my question is, what's wrong with it then? Why did I bin this one? Because I think it looks really good. Okay, and now I have a number of rules that I keep reminding you, and one of those various things. Now, taking my rules similar to like Zombieland, if anyone gets to see that, it's a great film. Yeah, but we have certain rules to survive in Disney Infinity, and rule number one is don't make the maps too big, and this map is too big. With all the enemies that I've got, and because you can't have too much AI, they look diminished, so it doesn't look as impactful as I wanted it to. So by keeping it into a compressed and small area, therefore the enemies seem more clustered, and therefore it always felt slightly large. It'll just take too long for the enemies to run up to the edge of the screen. So I had to bin this and start again and do the whole thing on a lot more smaller scale, which gave me the effect that I wanted as a really big battle. So remember that, not too big. Right, so starting on a blank toolbox, right, we're going to start building this from scratch. Now, those that don't make the toolboxes or watch what I do, just do it. The whole level we're going to make within less than 30 minutes. We've spent 6 minutes now just talking about what we've done. We're now going to start building it, so it's going to be less than 7 minutes. Now, the first thing I've done here is I've put on a power disc. Okay, now sadly, this is a power disc that's quite a hard one to get hold of. Yeah, it's the Lion King set, which is the Pride Lands. But it's a fantastic backdrop. So this is one of those things I would advise you to track this down on eBay, see who's got these. It's a great power disc. You get great trees with it as well. Now there are jungle things you can use as well, so don't worry about that. But the background is brilliant, and so is the landscape. So that's the set that I use. It was the Lion King ones, which I think is called Simba's Pride Land. Okay, and the first thing I did before I do anything, put those on, and it sets the background off. And the reason why I set the background on before, I wanted to see where the sun was coming from, okay? Because I want to make sure that I want the sun where the city is. So actually I want the sun that side, yeah? So I wanted it glaring through, give a bit more shadow coming through. So in this case, you'll notice I'm going to grab the Cave of Wonders entrance, right, which is under the set pieces, and I'm going to line out with my centerpiece, and I'm just going to move it right back to the back of the edge so it fits flush. So it's bang in the middle and set up there. And that is our entrance for our Wakanda City, which is what we're building. So what we're going to do now is we're going to now use some basic blocks and start building around that. Okay, so you'll see me just move back and forth. So we're going to go and find our basic blocks, and we're going to do our steps. Now all this we're going to get done within 30 minutes. The whole level is going to be done quite quickly in 30 minutes. It doesn't take that long. And I love just playing around, getting design levels or coming up with ideas, because it's one of my de-stress from work. I come back from work, I come up with my girls, we try and work out some levels and come up with some ideas, and I don't have to think about all the work, or you don't have to think about homework or what stuff you got to do. It's a real good unwind. I do find playing on PlayStation helps me relax and de-stress. I think it's fantastic. Okay, right, so I've got my steps coming down. Okay, I'm just going to go to one of my custom tools, because in here I've got the Wreck-It Ralph. Is it Wreck-It Ralph, or is it the it's from the Wreck-It Ralph toy set. I can never find it. Yeah, the Hero Duty bridge. Yeah, I can never remember where that comes under, but it is under one of these set pieces, and I love this bridge, so I'm going to put this here. So you'll see here I've done 2 little slopes coming down, and I want 3 of these moving across. Okay, so from here I also want the other ramps on the other side. Now, in my next clip, which is going to come later this week, I'm going to show you how I did the army marching through. And the one thing I found really annoying was I wanted the troops to come across and march up the stairs. And I'm going to discuss all that, but that caused me a huge headache for something that seems so straightforward. But again, I will explain that in my next clip. But I wanted 3 ramps, right? One was the main one, and then 2 sub ramps to come up. So now that I've got those lined up side by side, I can now move the pieces and I can separate across. right, which happens to be, by the way, exactly 1 square from the side. So also, just be aware, by the way, I've created the entire level and then I'm now recreating it again. So this is the 3rd time I'm creating this map, just so I can make sure I capture all the different clips and stages that I've done. There we go. So there is our ramp coming up. So that allows me to work out, right, we've now got our steps and we're going to build our little frame around that. Just using basic blocks. So we go to Toy Origin here. I'm just going to look for another thing here. Let's go across. The other thing I want is on start. Where is it? Keep going through. You'll see me flick through. I still get confused where the flipping things are. When they did version 4, it would have been so cool that they updated this or did a better type of search mechanism. You'll see I'm confused. But what I was actually looking for is this, the Endor ATAT thing. Now, just to make sure no one went down underneath, I just want that at the far end of the screen. I just wanted the ramp, so I'm just going to make sure that lines up. And by putting this on here, it then let me understand where the ground level was, so I could put the ground in this particular part of the screen. I never intended for the player to go down into the city part. I just wanted the pillars surrounding them. But that gives me an idea, right, that's now the backdrop that we've got, and it allows me to line all those settings up. Okay, so we now got to do that, so we can look at now building the blocks around and get the ramps and then expanding around this square. But this is, again, the main single square is where all the fighting's done. Everything else is just going to go around it to make it a little bit pretty. And that's the key thing that we're doing here. Now, I'm trying to show you how quick this is by doing it all in one clip. And there'll be a couple little pauses and stuff like that where I've just quickly saved the clip. I'll go from here. Right, so let's go across to my little long. Right, one thing I'm going to do first is we've got the building side, but what I'm going to do is I need to know how wide we need to make this before we start building the walls in. So I'm just going to do the river, and I wanted the river going across the bottom, so not too bad. So you see me jumping back and forth a bit, but this is so I can appreciate that when I do the entrance of the thing, I know how far the item's going to go. Yeah, I'm going to move that level there, and everything to the right of that river, which is now blank, is where the ships are going to land. And I love this piece. Yeah, I love the waterfall. Sadly, it doesn't really go with anything. Nothing connects to it, so I never know when to use it. It always looks out of place. But I'm going to stick that there. But I love that piece. Out of all the little free tools you can do, I just love that. I just wish things could add on to the side of that. But hey, we'll get there in the end. Right, so I now know that my toy box will go that far wide, right? And I'll also have the other side. So I now need to fill that particular, so I need to go across now and put my land in that side, you see, and this is where I'll have all the trees where the enemy is going to come out from. Okay, so I'm just looking through, so let's go back. So now I know that, let's go back to where am I going now? Alright, so I've got a rough idea where this is going. So first thing is going to do some pillar work. So right, let's go back and forth. And now I don't have it fitting flush because I want a little ridge across, so I'm just making it come down 1 square. Okay, we'll do 2 of these side by side. Okay, so they fit in. And then I want an item going across the top. And I had to keep on double checking what I'd done so it mirrored exactly what the clip I got. So I also have pillars in front of it. And strangely, I'm really fussy. I don't like to have any gaps at all. I didn't actually quite mind there being a little gap there. It didn't really bother me too much. I was quite happy with that. So it works quite well. That's good. Right, so what we're going to do now is like the top piece, I think. So we can carry on working on there. The trouble I had was trying to remember where all the squares that we use. But obviously you can play this back and pause it and show each stage as you do it. But honestly, if you build this map, it's not going to take you, the actual map itself is not going to take you more than 30 minutes. I think the whole thing would take you, yeah, because I'm going to show you every stage. Yeah, I'm not speeding up any areas. Right, so there's our ramp going across there. Okay, and then I'm just going to, so on there, I don't want to fill the other box in, okay, because what I want to do, I want the roof to come down at an angle, so look too jagged. So what I was thinking, how do I get the roof sloping? So what I thought was do, I could use those little triangle feet that come underneath it to give you the impression of it sliding down. So if I go back to those basic shapes, right, so you'll see I put some squares across, so these go across here, but you get that like rigid corner, and your head's going to hit that, so that's not going to work. So I use these lines here to twist them around, and I'm going to stagger it so it goes down, so you'll see it matches in line with the step. So I can fit those across, and also you'll notice it fills the top in, so that's that filled in. And I need to lower it down one more time again, and we have a big giant opening for the main entrance. There we go. Now these, you'll notice, you're thinking, well, they don't want to be as high, okay, because they're for the troopers. They don't have to be as high as that. That needs to be slightly lower. So I always got confused here. Do I want to keep it going across? We don't want to put those there yet, so we'll come back to those in a moment. Yeah, so don't worry about that at this particular stage, because what I want to build up is the ramp that's going up there. Let's just move this bit. It took a little bit to get my little head around it. So what I'm going to do is going to get these little squares, right? Now these squares go across here, right? That there was the block where the little setup cross, and I'm going to go all the way across to the stairs. Right, twist that round. This is the little side panel, and then I drop that down one. Right, cool. So now that goes perfectly. So I now know where the lip is, so I now know the edge. Okay, so that's my entrance. So that there now is where I can go from the box part. So I now know they shoot across from there, I can do the other entrance. But it's just, again, working it all out where the enemies can run up and they'll get the Odin treasure, which I'll show you where that is as well. But so far so good, all coming together nicely. Right, so as I go to the next piece, go back to my pillar. Don't want one of those. Don't know why I've stopped at my half dome thing. Got carried away. Don't want one of those either. Right, so these go in. Now these go straight down here, and we put them in quite nicely. So that's in level with that box. So you'll notice it fits ground with the ground level, which is perfect. And then we do the inside. You'll see there's a gap in the inside, so we'll move that across. Okay, so no logic, it's just layout. I'm going to show you some other things I'm going to do with this particular level. I'm going to do some variations of this, so watch out for the other clips, because the intros are going to be slightly different on each one. Okay, so we've got our little ramp, we've got that set up on the screen, so I'm now going to get my other little diagonal thing here. Where is it? That one there. And now we know it's level there. I want it level with that box, so those are going to go across there. Now, when you do this, you don't think that's big enough, but that whole square is the same as a character, so you'll easily run up that, no problems at all. And also you'll notice then you've got your little lip on the other side where you walk across. Yep, perfect. And now we go to these little pillars, and this is the little arch bit to look like the wall's going up, so we're going to put this against the side here, and that's that. So we've now got our little entrance. Yep, so that works quite nicely. That's our little wall, and that wall's going to go all the way down one side, and the wall on the other part as well. So now my little squares. Now, in my original, one of my first tests, that was as wide as I wanted it, but there wasn't enough room for the baddies to fight. So I actually then have this lip sticking out, so the enemies can fight the treasure a little bit more space, which does mean the overlap area, which I quite liked. So that now is our entrance all done. Yeah, we're going to do a sliding door. That's all. The rest of it's now just going to be the wall going across the screen. It's as easy as that. Now hopefully I've done it slow enough for you. Hopefully it's not dragging on too much, but it gives you the idea so you can follow this and just build the same square. So if I go too fast, let me know. If you're not liking anything, any tips, give me a shout. Right, so what I've got to do now, if I can remember the boxes, the particular squares, I'm now going to grab the soil ones. See, that's not as too wide. So the one I want, I think that's one of these, is a that one. Nope, not that one. Don't think it was that one. Yeah, it's that one. That's the one I used. That's it. That's perfect. I'm going to put that down. Okay, I'm just going to slide that down to it level with the ground. Yep, perfect. You won't see the edge one because the wall's going to be on top of it. Now I want it going across, so I can do that either side. And I'm going to merge it all across. Now you'll notice it doesn't fit exactly because of the head. I'm not too worried about that. You won't notice it because of the trees. So it roughly is about spot on. So one of my problems I find is I want to be exact. I want to think everything match up perfectly, and things don't match up perfectly, and that's I've got to keep telling myself not to do that. I want it to be perfectly symmetrical. I don't want a single gap. I want it to look decent. And also remember, when you build in your maps, they don't look anything like that until you, because when you're in gameplay, you're right down into this edge, so we're not going to see these edges. Yeah, we're not going to see how this all works. It's all going to be hidden from the user. And I still have trouble getting my head around it until I play it. Oh no, I can get rid of that. So it's just trying to get bold. Don't need it. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be perfect. Yeah. And I think sometimes we get so fiddly that it's never going to work. Yeah, it drives you insane. Right. What I now need to do is, now I've got the landing, I now need to just do the wall part. So let's do the wall. And that wall goes all the way across, so I don't want them going into the city. And as you saw in the first drive, I had the big high mountain rocks. I wanted to show different settings, but then you couldn't see the lovely background. So it's like, can't see the background. I wanted to show it. I think this is one of the best landscapes. It's quite neutral. It fits in with most things. So I didn't mind it. And also, Pride Rock, which is over there, once you've got the trees, you don't really see it. You don't actually get to notice it because you can't get that close to the edge. So again, it's not something you realise. You can see it here, but in my gameplay, you never once realised that was the case, did you? Right, now what we're going to do here is there's a colour. I'm going to change all the colour to the Asgardian stone, which gives you that yellow type look. Yeah, like golden little brick. Gives it to that. So I thought that gave you that look, a good colour. So it's a building brick. It went quite well with the head, because sadly you can't change the colour of the head. I'd love to have made it like the Black Panther, but I was really pleased that I managed to find a way of using it that wasn't Aladdin. Right, so all I've got to do now is I've got to fill in the gap with the terrain. Okay. And you can't drop that in because it's too big, so I've got to find the other squares. There we go, so we can drop that one across. So that fits quite nicely. Get it in. Perfect. That fits in. We'll have it. So my panic was, what if it doesn't fit the other edge? Okay, so if you click onto here, will it fit the other side? Have I got the boxes just right? So let's have a look. And yes, look at that. It does fit. Thank God for that. And hey presto, done. Alright, that's now for one side done. And we now need to do the same with the other side, which is all good. So we'll just fill that in as well. We'll just drop that in. So I'm going to put that to one side. I put the box that side and the little piece the other bit, because you'll be more closer to the entrance than you will the other boxes. But again, I'm going to surround those all off with actual trees as well, so that'll hide the fact as well from the screen. I want to try and get so you can't see. Try and get as many little joins as possible. Yeah, you're never going to notice the edge box, it's alright, but I want to try and keep little joins as possible. Now I put this here because what I'm going to do now is I'm also going to add a little slope to the edge, so it's not just a giant, it looks like a big flat wall there, it looks a bit garbage. So if I can find it, which I have trouble always doing, but there is a little edge there where I can look at the screen. So if we go in our tools, I go straight past it, because it's actually not, it's not this one, it's the second, the one I want is actually called ramp cliff. I just go past it every time. So I flew past it there, but it was the third one across there. So let's just go back to it. You'll see I got confused. So where is it? Where is it? But where is it? It's that one, the cliff ramp. Because when you turn around, that looks quite good, and you can fit that to the side, and that looks like then it takes away that sharp edge, which doesn't look too bad. So we've now got our little box here, which is all nice. And then what I'm going to also then do is just add some landscape at the back, because I need the space for the ships to crash down. But again, the user is never going to go past the river. Yeah, that's one thing they're never going to do. So I probably don't need as big as that box as that, just enough to have a bit of trees and enough space for the ships to crash into the screen. And that, theoretically, is the maximum size of the map. Now again, normally I'd have lined it up so it's perfectly square. The user's never going to see that side of the screen. Yeah, we don't care, you're fighting the other part. Okay, so we don't actually care that ridge, not too bothered. But that just gives me enough working space now to get my trees to end and to get the other item on the screen. right? And we'll change all the color and landscape in the moment. So now that I've got that set up, what I can do now is do the landscape that I need so I can build the building blocks for the city. So now that we know where the bottom is, if we take this tool here, this is the side wall, I'm just going to put this underneath the box and go down. Now this is not going to fit flush, yeah, so I'm going to move it across. I don't know why I've gone to the very edge. Now I can't fit it too perfect because it's not right. So I'm just going to come back a little bit because it doesn't fit all the way across. Just back a little bit on the screen, just move to the side. Come on, I've gone too far. Just a little tab to the left and it should fit. That's it, perfect, because they'll overlap evenly now on the same side. Cool, that's that. And then I need the big flat base unit. Where's the flat one? And now I need to make sure that fits. Now I know how high to go up. I want that to touch the other box. There we go. So that fits in. It needs to touch the side. Move it across. Perfect. Now another thing I need to do is I wanted the cities to be different heights, but I wanted the city to be tall enough so you can see it. So you'll see here, I'm just going to put some boxes going around the edges, but I wanted the actual city to be below the grim so you can't see all the land, the bottom part of it, but I wanted it to be high enough so it over went the wall so you could see this city behind it. So therefore I've got to use those towers, and those towers were actually not tall enough, so I need to raise them up on different, like put them on their own stilts. So I found out that they didn't fit on the screen, so let's just line these all up. Right, that's that done. So if I put the city, it was too low down and I wanted them to be higher up. So I'm going to create some like stepping stones to put the towers on. So they're just below the wall, you can't see the ground of it, but from the other side they look like they're giant cities. Yeah, so what we're going to do now is grab the little boxes. So we'll just create another little terrain tool and we'll put it around it. I think I have to do a minor adjustment to some of these, but it's not too bad. So let's grab those little boxes. I don't need a large box. The small one should suffice. I think that one's okay. The small flat terrain block. So what we'll do here is we'll put this down here. So the first one I use the Star Wars block, right? So I'm just going to move that right down to the bottom. Yeah, and I can fit in flush. Now this one has to be too high. So that's where the block's going to appear. You'll notice it's still low enough so when you're on the ramp you don't see the bottom of it. Alright, the next tower is really tall, so we're going to have one over here, so we can drop that down again. So again, this only has to be one on the screen. Right, and I have ones on the end. I actually fit that flush, right, and I did the corner. It doesn't need to be actually. I've done this slightly wrong. It actually wants to be a little bit to the left. You'll see me adjust this later on, so be aware these last boxes here, although we're doing two, we're going to have to move them across just a little. So in this case I'd have to move it just a little bit more to the right, so it just goes to the little ridge there. That's my own doing, I got carried away, but you'll see that in a second when I try and put the city in. So they're all the blocks that we need, yeah? Oh yeah, and I need one more on the edge here. Put that on the edge. Okay, that fits that. Have I done the other side as well? No, didn't do that one. Right. That is all the terrain done. And now we've just got to put all the little effects on to make it look like it. But that is the entire terrain for the entire map. It's not bad. Right, so we're now going to build the city element to it, and we're going to add all the little pre-built items that you can get in your toolbox. Well, toy box as it's called, I always call it toolbox. Right, so we go to buildings, and we need to get to the Star Wars section. Okay, and the one I quite like, this one's quite a good building. So this is one again, it's a different height, but I want this to the edge. So this is going to go on the first two high box, and it's slightly two different sides to this, but I want obviously as much colour and different variations to it. So I want that dark brown and the silver, so I'm going to twist it the other way around because the other one's pure white. And with the right brick it looked a bit bland, it looked a bit bland that side, so I'm going to twist the other one because I thought that was a bit more interesting. Okay, so that's still on that side. Okay, and obviously it mirrors it on the other side, so we drop that across, and that goes there. Perfect, so there's our now two little towers. Okay, now we've got this little tower here. Now this is the bit where I got slightly wrong, we'll have to move these in a moment, but these are on the corner parts. And they're slightly different way around, so I'm just going to twist it the other way around. It doesn't matter if it's slightly different because it doesn't fit in perfectly. But again, looking different variation of that same height is what I'm looking for. But I'd say that they just needed to be slightly more to the left side of the screen. Right, so we now go through the other origins. I can never remember where I find this one, but there is obviously the Tomorrow World option. And I think it's in set buildings, in completed buildings. And I don't know why. Does everyone else find this? You know when you're looking for a part, I've gone the wrong side. If I'd gone right, I'd have found it straight away. Yeah? But I always tend to go fly too far to the left or to the right side of the screen. It drives me insane. Alright, one of the buildings. Again, like, I'm looking for the building, I cannot find it. It's like, ugh. So I'm flicking through these. Now, I haven't edited this because normally I would spin through this, but I wanted to show you the whole thing, even though I'm messing this up. I've got this wrong. Here you go. I found Tomorrowland. Right, these are massive things, which is why I wanted them just a little bit lower, so they're on the other box. Okay, and I want them just slightly to the edge, so they're back a little bit. There you go. So you'll just see hanging over the edge. Again, I have to say that would annoy me that it was hanging over the edge. It doesn't matter. You'll never see it. It's not for the effect for the game. Yeah. Just remember that you just want it so it looks as a backdrop. Yeah, so turn that round, drop that in. So now I got the two, because they're still taller than the other box, right? And this is the thing I wanted, the big tall tower, absolutely massive tower. But look, the boxes are too close together, so I need to move those boxes. I'm like, oh, I've done that wrong. Now I get told off by my kids all the time because at this point I don't try and swear on in my channel, but occasionally this is where I go, no, flipping boxes, and they will just laugh at me and just say shut it. But yeah, just like, oh, it doesn't work. Or the worst thing is when it crashes, because I'm pretty sure anyone who's built a toy box has had it crash on him at some point, and that's when it just like, no. Many times I've had a paddy, I've lost all my work and just thrown it out. Because also another thing I preach, another one of my Zombieland rules is always save as you can do your work. Once you've done something, you're happy with it, save it. Alright, so that's rule number 3. Yeah, make sure you save your work as you go along. Yeah. Maybe Disney put it in on purpose to crash on purpose to give us a break so we're not playing on it for too much. Okay, now I've got that set just wide enough, now I can slide the tower in. I'm just going to make sure it fits on the ground. Doesn't really need to fit on the ground, so it's a little bit too high, a little bit fraction higher, and then I can slide that in. Go straight into it, hits the box, and then back one. Perfect. That'll do. That'll give the impression of the super high-tech tower. And then I think the last tower I use is from the Spider-Man collection. Somewhere here. Wait a second, go to Toy Origins, and it's Spider-Man. Now, you watch here. If I'd gone down the list, not up through the list, I'd have got Spider-Man quicker. See, that's what I mean. I always go the wrong direction, and sometimes I do the other way around, and it's always the wrong one I want. But you look, it's the last one that I wanted. Always the case. Right, now we don't want to see Oscorp, so I'm going to keep that to the back so you can't see it. But I did quite like that tower again, so I'm going to do that so you can't see the title of the box. And I'm having that in the middle. Just pull it back so it's in the middle of the box, sorted, and that the other side, and that's on that other platform. So that is our city. That hopefully the user will never jump off the edge and have a look at it. That's not the plan. Yeah. And I think the last thing I did for the final effect was put the Watchtower in. I always like the Watchtower. I quite like the thing, and I did like the camera view that I did with the Black Panther kit, where you can see over everything. And again, I can never find this one, but I believe it's under the completed set pieces. And again, if I go on the other side, every flipping time. Right to the end. I always think I've gone wrong. I was about to give up here, and then I finally found it. But I'd gone the other way, because look, the volcano was there. Always the case. Now remember, the tower's slightly to the right, so you don't want that in the middle. So I'm going to move that slightly off center, because I want the actual tower bit bang in the middle. So I'm just going to move it. So you'll see here, it's not to the center, so I'm going to move it so it's lined up to the center. That's better. And then I move it back, so it's just past the circle. Perfect. Okay, and that fits in top of the place, and there is our Wakanda City. And look, when you're in the gameplay, it looks quite effective. I think I'd say I was quite pleased how that turned out. See, it doesn't take long to build one of these things. So some people that say, oh, I can't build these things, there's no excuse. I've given you every step-by-step task. which is really quite cool. Now, the thing we're going to do now is the best bit. I love this little bit. Right, we're going to use the, in the decorations, there are these fancy terrains. I want fancy terrain 1 and fancy terrain 4. They're the two that we need. We don't use any others. And this is to do with the Simba Pride Land discs, yeah? But they're the two items that we want. And we're going to scatter those now all around the edges, right? And there's no particular order to it, by the way. You can do it wherever you particularly like. So we're going to go down the side. I want it slightly so I don't want to go too close to the edge so the person can see its end. So I'm doing it just up to the city part. But you'll see here, I'm just randomly sticking them across here. There is no particular order. I'm not too worried if they go slightly over the edge. Yeah. So just go across here. You can have link it across, change the different sizes. I'm not too worried about it. You'll see it. And again, no, I'm trying to be more around. So I'm going to do the nice edges around the side, and then I'll stick them in between the two. This is the bit of the forest. Now, in this build, this is the third build I'm doing for the clip. What I probably would have done was wanted to make it slightly more curved so it didn't look so square, which I think happened in my final version. So although I've got that nice edge down the side, when I come inwards I could go a bit more round, a bit more curved on the actual item. I'd probably do that. So you can see here, and then we want to crisscross them because we're going to blur them through. Now these don't interlink, but when we change with these fancy terrain, they can be different shapes, and therefore by allowing us to do them in this format, when we change the actual style to the Simba land, they will then expand and they will then merge together, and it will give me that dense forest look, which looks really cool, right? And I was trying to find the right disc, and I was like, the Simba land one actually was really good. But if you don't have the Simba discs, there is a jungle line, the Pirates of the Caribbean jungle. They look quite good with the palm trees. So you have to find which one's best suits. But I think these little tools are brilliant. And I think if you ever look at my John Wick clip that I did, I got the terrain to change. Every time you had a different wave, the terrain would change into a different scenario. So I had different styles. So I have loads of that one, but that's quite a few old, that John Wick one. Okay, so you'll see I've scattered them in there. Now I'd probably bring the middle bit out so you get a bit of a curvature on it. I keep it too dense, but I would probably have had the middle section come out a little bit further and leave it dip round so it's like an M type shape. Well, what I want it to do is just want it to look like a jungle. That's all I want to do. So I'm trying to fill as many little gaps, different little trees. This is just variation of different shapes as well. Can't have them cross over, let's fit them in. Right, and I'm going to do this all around the edges. Now again, I could have speeded this up, but I wanted you to show you, look, it doesn't take that long to build the clip. It's very quick, very easy. That's that side. We now go and do exactly the same all the way over on the other side. So I'll just chuck that down for a second, and let's get number 4. So train 1 and train 4. So that one there first, so we can move that across. So I'm just going right on the edge because I don't want the player to go that far because there's all that many enemies. I also do another little cheat on the other side, is that because obviously the spaceship crash, I wanted to have all smoke, and that stops the user seeing the other landscape, the edges, so it blanks it out. So that was another little cheat method that I did. But again, I'm just filling these all in, just trying to get them across the screen, fill the little gaps so they're like solid trees. And if you see my, I did this the same effect I did with my Lord of the Rings clip when I did the forest surrounding Helm's Deep. Now, out of the clips that I've done, I quite like my Helm's Deep one, but I didn't get many views on that. No one, it was like only a so-so one, but I did quite like that one. I think I may have protested again before that one. Right, so this is obviously I've got a number of clips coming out, so we're going to show you a number this week. There may be then after this week a few days break, and then I've got another one coming. I'm hoping to get 2 full levels out by before Christmas, and then there'll be one during the Christmas holiday as well. Managed to keep you busy for a while over. I've got a few other things in. There's a couple of racetrack ones. Someone suggested a Doctor Who clip. I think that's genius. I'll have to have a look into that. I think Doctor Who's quite good. I don't know. You Americans now in America, you quite like Doctor Who now, but it's a very big thing over here in the UK. We love it. So it's only recently it's got quite big in the States. But I'll have to think of something to do with Doctor Who. I think it could be quite a good one. And I have mentioned I've got the Mandalorian coming, so I've got some different ideas with that. I mentioned in the other clip that there is a really cool thing I did, which I thought I was really pleased with, and that was more impressive than is the thing out of the whole clip that I preferred more to show off. It didn't work; it drained all the memory. So I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you that in one of my other clips, which I think I'm going to tighten with the Mandalorian. But it was a really cool little thing. I thought that works really well, and I spent ages trying to work at it, but it just drained the memory, and it just didn't work at all. And I spent ages on that. It's like, oh, but I will show it to you, and I'll come back to my original map because I've still got all the connections set up for it where it failed. But it was a really cool effect, and it went wrong. But I have found a use for it, so it can be used. So don't you worry. And also, there's I've got an idea to do with like a thing called Cannonball Run. In the 70s, there was like a driving. It was a bit like the Fast and Furious, but it was back in the 70s, and it's a race basically across America. So I wanted to do something like that, like a two-player race, but it was like a more general, larger map. I very much quite liked the Crew. It got a really bad press. IGN hated it. But I loved the Crew, and some of the little mini online games, I really loved it. So I didn't mind it at all, and I loved the open world map. My daughters just loved to drive that game. They just got in there and just drive. Didn't want to do the racing online, but just loved driving around. So I'm going to do some sort of driving and race ones. Also, I bought white Lightning McQueens. I've got to find some use for them as well, because I don't do many of the driving characters. Here we go. So chuck all this on. Right, we're almost at the end, by the way. This is virtually done. So me just playing around, filling the spaces in. So this is an unedited, nothing speeded up. You've seen every stage of this clip. The only time I paused it was to save it as I was going along. Okay, and that is our entire map. Yeah. So all we got to do now is the little magic little trick here, which I love doing this bit. We need now to switch those on to be the Zimba Pride. So let's go over to our little trees. Let's go down to the trees. Let's point to them, and you do the triangle button, right? On the PlayStation, it's triangle button. But you can then get it to choose to be a different type. It doesn't have to look at that item. And one of those across, as we go across, is not the dragon. The dragon landscape could be quite good. Yeah, is this one, the Pride Land. So there are other ones you can use that if you haven't got the power disc, you can find workarounds. But this one, the lands option. So you do apply yes to all. And hey presto, look at that. They all now change to look like a forest. Well, look like a jungle more than anything. And I just think the end result for that is awesome. Okay, but then you're going to say, but Simon, you've got all this green land. Oh yeah, well we need to change the land as well. So we now need to go onto the land and do the same with the land box. So that's not too bad. If I now go and point onto the land, ones that left, press my little triangle again. On this case, we're going to go across. Now, because I've got the power discs on, the Simbaland will appear. It won't appear if you don't have a power disc. So if you go across here, you go, where's my one? It doesn't appear on the screen. You won't get that if you haven't got the power disc on the screen. So I do a power disc, set yes. That now changes everything. Hey presto, we are complete. We have Wakanda City here, all done. Ready to do our chant. Look at that. That's it. So I'm going to show you how to get the ships now to come crashing down. Look at that. Look at, there we go. We have our map. Got the city. We can jump through into the city. The rope goes through. It looks like you can't see anything else to the side. It does its job. Right, so we'll get the other clip to you very shortly. Cheers for all the support, all the comments. Love some of the things here. So thanks for everything you put through. And I'll get the other clip to you very shortly. Probably about a couple more days. You'll get that one out as well. Should hopefully all be ready by the weekend anyway. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll get the next clip to you very shortly. Cheers guys. See you later.